Welcome back to Shantae and the Seven Sirens. We have our Pack Frog transformation. Are going to continue exploring around the new area of the mines, which isn't super big. You kind of just come here to get like one or two things, and that's it.
Yeah.
You come here for one thing, forget where the second thing was.
I mean, I remembered where it was, but
so in this part of the game, you have to get 2 bracelets for the ghost dog.
Oh
And
yeah, it was that
right
it was
there.
that
It's
chest
the
right
second
there.
bracelet right there. Completely forgot it was there. Like I scoured the mines and the other areas, like high and low, trying to remember where that damn thing was.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where you have to walk through that room, and actually you have to walk right past that thing because this is the only way into this area, or at least from this side, anyway. So
no, I came in through the other way the first time from the Leaf Village area.
Oh yeah, so did I.
okay.
And you can't come in this way until you have the Quake Dance. So I had to go all the way around.
Yeah.
Oh, those spiders are assholes. I remember because they shoot really quickly. Honestly, I feel like there's a good argument to be made that the bubble is the best magic in the game, and you really don't even need to upgrade it because the bubble really doesn't use that much magic, and you don't ever really need it to be upgraded because just stopping the projectiles is enough. You don't really need to like reflect them or make yourself fully invincible. And if you just have the bubble on, it barely uses magic, especially when you have the what is that thing called? The magic regen power on. So if I ever play the game again, I'm gonna prioritize bubble because a lot of the random enemies in this do use projectiles, which would
Yeah,
make it.
I find the red spiders specifically like weird because they fire 3 shots in rapid succession.
Yeah.
But only one can hit you, but it does 5 points of damage. Like in a way, it's kind of the game's method of having Shantae get hit by all 3 of them, even though she could only get hit by 1.
Yeah. And I mean, it is still harder to dodge 3 of them anyway, because even if they're close to each other, they're still like effectively.
It's still
a
longer.
big-
Yeah, it's a longer
a
hitbox.
big
Yeah,
bullet.
and I think they move faster too.
They probably do. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
have the.
It's just an overall upgrade to the other spider.
Yeah. Although I do appreciate that if you fight the later versions of any of the enemies. Oh, this is the one that I cheesed, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. This is the one where you use the. Well, I used the tortoise and the newt.
Yeah. You can
At the
do
same
like a
time.
big old jump off newt, and then you just barely grab onto something on the other end, and then you can get the heart square.
Is it the only time the game where you can do something like that? Because I didn't 100% this game. Like after a while, it's like I don't care about the nuggets anymore.
So
Or the
I mean, I'm
heart
sure
squid, so-
there are other areas, but that's certainly one of the easier ones to think that you can do.
Yeah.
There's at least one area. Oh, okay. So one of the other ones you can do early is the one with the poison water. The cave
You
with
just
the
you
poison.
just stuff food down your mouth until you get to the other side.
Yeah.
I do like that in this whole fusion dance system, there is already in place a narrative reason for why you would not have these powers in the next game. Because you give them back, obviously.
Right.
So,
Yep.
you know,
Pretty much.
props for that, I
I'm-
guess.
I mean, I don't know why it matters to me so much. Actually, I think I kind of know why. One of the first games that I feel like I really fell in love with was Banjo-Tooie, and that's like one of the only games I can think of off the top of my head where you start the sequel with literally every power you had from the original. I guess honestly, I think it bothers me more when games do bad explanations for why you don't have your stuff, as opposed to when they don't have an explanation at all. Like, Metroid Prime is still, to me,
Metroid Prime's pretty dumb.
it's
Yeah.
the
I
prime
mean-
example. No?
I mean, ultimately the reasoning is just it's a video game. Deal with it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why having a bad reason bothers me than having no reason. Because if there's no reason, it's just a game. But if there's a bad reason, I'm like,
If there's a bad reason, it's bad writing.
Bullshit.
So,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, but Metroid Prime, it's like Samus gets yonked into that wall. Okay, sure. That probably hurt, but then again, Samus can also jump straight into pools of lava and this
So,
fine.
I noticed you're
So-
just tanking hits from the enemies in the sand, rather than doing the obvious thing and using the Quake Dance you just got to kill them all.
You don't even need to think that hard. You can just use Scimitar.
Eh?
Yeah, the scimitar continues while you're in drill form.
Oh.
So
I mean, using the Quake Dance is also good because
Well,
it
I
gets rid
mean,
of all
you
the sand on
have
screen.
both of these.
That
You have
too,
both
yeah.
of these things now, so you could have used one or the other. Both would have worked, but you used neither.
I mean, the Quake Dance does take a little bit to use. Like, it takes, like, I mean, granted, it's not a long time. It takes maybe, like, 10 seconds to fire one off. But it does do a lot of damage.
No, but that feeling, though, it does add up eventually, which is why, more often than not, I won't use a dance. I'll use a power-up instead, because that's one button as opposed to...
Dancing
Well,
and
guess
then doing the
technically-
animation and blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like that this game, for the offensive ones, or the healing even, it does feel like it is worth it to use these things, the dances, as opposed to just relying on the power-ups, because one of the things about some games like this is that, you know, some of the power-ups do feel useless in a lot of cases, whereas here, there are definitely instances where you want to use the refresh or the electric or the quake even outside of the instances where it's, you know, specifically mandated, whereas there are a lot of games where you only ever use this thing in the specific, you know, where the power-up is effectively a weird-shaped key, and that's the keyhole.
God, those Tinkerbats, like, digging on the ground, like, drove me insane for so long.
Yeah, it's like, how do you get those? The thing that bothers me, and this isn't something I figured out until the very end of the game because of my stream chat, some of them you have to do quakes in order to find what they're digging at, and some of them it's the ground stomp. Yeah, and there's no real differentiation between the two. And it's a little bit annoying because they have sprites in the game that could help differentiate the two, because they've got the Tinkerbats with the hammers and then the Tinkerbats that are just clawing. If you had one of those guys signify one of the types of interaction and the other do the other, then it would have made everything more clear. And then they didn't do that.
I didn't even know there was two different types.
Well,
like, I see them, I figured the Tinkerbats digging led to something eventually.
Well, no, there are two different animations. Some of them have hammers, some of them are just scratching at the ground. He's saying that if you would use that in some way to signify which one you're supposed to use.
Right.
Like,
but you're saying that the ones with the hammers also might have something.
As far as I can tell, no. Those ones are just cosmetic, which is why it would be cool if, like, the ones that are digging, you just need to ground pound, and the ones with hammers, you need to quake. You know, that's supposed to be your visual signifier. Because I mean, granted, I do appreciate that this game does have a scan thing, because worst case scenario, as tedious as it might be, you can ultimately stop and scan every screen to find every secret. Like, that's not...
I mean, that's I think you're going to do that anyway, though.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. I generally prefer games where, yes, you can have that brute force option, but also where the game can just visually tell you through something subtle that you can... This is how you can do it.
It's kind of like how what I was talking about with Luigi's Mansion 3, where I said, yeah, you can use that special light on every room, but you can usually just tell where you're supposed to use it based on looking at the environment.
Yeah, pretty much. And Shantae, and this game for the most part, is pretty good about that, but it falters in a couple of steps. Like with the Tinkerbats, I think, is probably the most egregious example in this game, specifically.
But the only thing it ever really leads to is just those stats. It's a weird part of the game. Like, you can use Quake Dance on the Tinkerbats digging, and you'll erect these statues. Which at first I thought, I'm probably like jumping one step ahead here with some sort of plot significant thing.
No, it's just a side thing you can do.
No,
it's
just a detail like that's just in the game.
It's just for a trophy or whatever.
I don't know if, like, each specific statue holds a specific thing. Like, statue A in the above ground area always has a nugget, or if it's sequential, like your first statue will always have gems and the second statue. I don't know. Chat probably knows. Not chat. Comments. Sorry, wrong platform. The comments probably know, so feel free to educate us in the comment section below. But if it is just specific ones, then that probably makes the whole process a lot faster, because you can just skip all the ones that give gems, because you've got plenty of those anyway.
What do you think? What are you supposed to take the statues as? I took them as genies.
They're
Like
tasteful
genies
statues.
from the previous one. They're tasteful. Yeah, but no, but it's like they're based on something.
They reminded
like-
me of the Ys games because there's a lot of statues like that, particularly in the first two, of like the goddesses of that game, and they just the way that they were drawn in like the super anime style just really reminded me of that. So that was all I could think of when I.
What
it
do
just
you
goes
mean
back to
super
being a dog.
anime style?
Well, not really super anime, like more. It looks more anime, whereas these guys here, like the characters for the most part in this, even their portraits look more like a cross between Western cartoon and anime.
Oh, fair
you
enough.
know, like
yeah.
they're more by shoujo. Is that the right word for it?
Well, but
That's just
Shoujo is pretty girl sort of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. They reminded me of the statues in the Ys games. That's all I'm just gonna throw out there.
And now we have the most overpowered one in the game, Magic Regen.
I haven't gotten
Yeah. Now you.
I haven't gotten far enough in East 1 and 2 to actually know what you're talking about, so I'll have to take your word
It's
for it.
honestly, it's frustrating because I love both of those games, but you're also not missing much when you. To be perfectly fair, because like the combat is archaic and weird as hell, with its weird bump, but you have to bump diagonally, otherwise you get hurt. And like the bosses in the later games feel like Toho bosses with how you're supposed to fight them, and the final boss of Ys 1 is actually like one of my least favorite bosses in video games ever. So it's like one of those
geez.
games that isn't really the first one specifically, I should say. The second one's actually a pretty solid action RPG, especially for the time. But the first game's one of those games that isn't great, but I still really like it. And I mean, if I'm going to be honest, it's probably just 80% the soundtrack. Anyway.
Yeah, I can.
Which is, I feel like, a common theme with a lot of those kinds of games, where it's just like, yeah, but the music's really good. It's like, okay.
It does
Worth it.
make it easy to stick with the game and just jam to the music the whole time. You're
If
face
you
planting
have
into
not-
enemies.
If you have not looked up the soundtracks to Ys 1 and 2, it is actually some of the best RPG music I've ever. You can. Oh my God! I forgot that the new dash gave you invincibility frames. That would have saved me so much time every time I went through that.
Falcom does do some really good music. Like, I started up Trails of Cold Steel the other day, and I just hit the title screen and I sat there listening to the title screen music for like 10 minutes. It was good music.
One of these days, I'll play those games. Eventually.
It's
Eventually.
It's a long game. A long series of long games. I don't blame anyone for not having time, but it should at least be on your list somewhere.
It's weird. I don't feel like I'm currently in the mood for a long game, especially since Animal Crossing is my current. I'm gonna turn my brain off for an hour.
Fuck Animal Crossing.
game.
I knew I was forgetting something. I need to boot that up sometime soon. when I started up,
Now everyone hates you.
I feel like this game they aren't as bad about that kind of stuff.
No,
and I
that's
don't
not what
think-
I'm worried about. I'm worried about the goddamn bamboo.
Oh yeah, no, it's your island's covered now. It won't stop. Also, there will be weeds everywhere.
Well, that's fine. I can sell the weeds. But the bamboo is just tedious to get rid of.
Oh yeah, be prepared to break 7 axes. Okay, so actually, I'm thinking about something here. The Tinkerbats, despite probably being the most recognizable Shantae enemy, I feel like they aren't actually enemies in almost all of the games, now that I think about it.
No, because they're just following Risky's orders.
Yeah, but I mean, like, normally you would expect that kind of enemy to be just, like, wandering around in the overworld and fighting and stuff. But you don't ever really do that. Like, you can technically kill them in this game, but they never fight back.
I'm thinking back to other games, and I don't think there's ever been a case of, like, a Tinkerbat that was just wandering around. I think they're always under orders to be doing something.
I mean,
even in the first one?
they're enemies.
Yeah, even in the first one.
I mean,
because the only time you fight Tinkerbats is in the beginning, during the invasion, like boss fights, and then the end game.
They are more prevalent in Half Genie Hero, now that I'm thinking about it. I haven't
I was
played
gonna
that
say
game
you
in a
do
while.
fight them in some way in every game until this one.
Yeah.
But in this
Yeah,
one, they're
I think
But they're always acting under orders. They're never. The only time they ever really go rogue is Pirate's Curse, and that's because they're possessed.
yeah, those are the only ones you just find like scattered about the map or whatever.
Yeah.
it's
Is this the cleanup part, Ryan?
Kind of. We're also going to find the scientific mind, which you would think would have been Mimic, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he
and
just
this
disappears.
is how we get back to Squid Baron's man cave. Tasteful statue.
Yeah, that's a freaking East statue.
I like to think of them as just like these are like former genies of this island.
This one
I thought
island
they
had
were
a
gonna
lot
have
of
more
genies.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna have more significance. Like my fear was that these were beacons that we would have to activate across the entire world
to do something.
to stop like the final boss or some other shit. I was like, oh no.
Did
I'm
Risky's
gonna be
Revenge have
everywhere.
something like that? I feel like it. No, Risky's Revenge.
No,
had...
Risky's Revenge had the golden squids.
Oh,
you
yeah.
just
Squid
swam past a
Yeah.
treasure chest and
No, I opened
oh,
that.
did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
The only thing in it was a nugget.
Yeah, and the nuggets are only good for trading stuff, for trading for cards. Oh,
Yeah.
so this part is going up after the first part has been uploaded. Apparently, monster cards are not required for 100%, which is...
The nuggets are though, so they sort of are, sort of aren't.
Yeah, but at the very least, you don't have to grind for monster cards, which I think is
Yeah.
definitely an improvement. You don't even
Well-
have to trade the monster cards to trade the nuggets for the monster cards, I
Ouch.
should say.
Well, I mean, Shantae does the usual. You know, to get certain ending images, you have to get every 100% or beat it in a certain time, or 100% in a certain time. It'd be functionally impossible to do 100% under a certain time if it was up to RNG like that.
Yeah, because there is a universe, however unlikely it may be, where you play the entire game and no monster cards drop. I mean, if you get
I want to be in
that,
that universe.
what's the opposite of trying to win the lottery? Like, because that's
Not playing the lottery?
Yeah, I mean, okay, there's that, but what's like the equivalent of? I guess getting struck by lightning.
I thought it would go down and that disappear.
I guess if that's gonna happen to you, you're more likely to actually get struck by lightning. But I mean, still,
You have better odds of getting struck by lightning though than winning the lottery.
Yeah.
yeah, you do, because the lottery is a huge scam. I mean, what?
Who said that?
Everybody did. Anybody who's ever studied the lottery can tell
well,
you that it's
the lottery
it's a
has to
massive
make
scam.
more money than it pays out.
Yeah, that's basically.
I mean, the real point of the lottery is to, I guess, raise money for.
the state.
I mean, because
They should
yeah, the
just
state
use
basically,
taxes
yeah.
Well,
That's how you do it.
No, but they can do
they
both.
they,
though.
they
Oh.
do taxes, but there are a lot of states that don't want to have a sales tax. So,
Yeah. I mean, God, if I remember correctly, they actually, for the lottery at some point, like I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, in order to get more people to play it, they actually made the odds of winning even less, because that would then in turn make the pot go up, because more weeks would pass without
An actual
somebody
winner.
winning it. And then if the pot's big enough, everybody will be like, oh, what the hell, I'll spend $5 on a ticket. You know, which then
On
further
the
feeds
on the
into
infinitesimally
itself.
small chance I actually win. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are
so it's yeah, but
Yeah.
it's I just find the psychology of that interesting, where by making something harder to do, you make people more likely to want to do it.
I mean, Dark Souls.
well, Dark Souls is a game that you win by skill, not random chance. So that makes sense. That's satisfying.
I guess so. We will see you all in the next part of Shantae.